I mean, what I would want my younger self to know is that there's nothing wrong with me. I mean,
Mm.
I just struggled with that so much. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be kinder, smarter, more successful, get the straight A's, prettier, taller, rich, all of the things? And I spent a lot of time trying to fix myself or be angry at who I was. So that is what I would like my younger self to know. There's nothing wrong with you. And everybody listening, nothing wrong with you.
Welcome to Notes to My Nervous System. I'm Erin, a mom, a therapist, designer of the Mind Circuit app, a little micro reset in your pocket. So, Kimberly Brown is joining us today. She's a meditation teacher and author. She's dedicated to helping people live more at ease. And she's going to be talking with us today about mindfulness to regulate our body and nervous system, developing self compassion to prevent burnout and being overwhelmed, which is something I'm super excited to hear about because I know I need that. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here, Erin.
Now, how long have you been in the field of meditation?
I've been teaching meditation since, I guess it's been about 15 years, since 2011. I've been studying and training in meditation and in wisdom techniques through Buddhist practice for close to 20 years. I'm
Oh,
a
wow.
longtime student. And I came to these um, to teach meditation because the practices really helped me. And
Mhm.
I know they can help other people too. I've seen it so many times.
Isn't that funny how when you find something that really helps you, you just want to share it so much? It's
Yes.
why I do EMDR and I talk about it and I made this app around some of the benefits of bilateral stimulation because when you find something that helps you, you just want to share it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And, I think what you're saying, Erin, is like when you know that others have had or are having a similar struggle or suffering, and you
Mhm.
realize there's a way that they can help themselves. It feels like, oh, well, I need to do this. I was suffering just like you are, and I can't cure it. I'm not, God, but there are ways that you can feel better. And I benefited from EMDR too, Erin. So I'm glad you're encouraging people to
Ew.
use that practice. It really helped me.
I love EMDR. There's no reason why we can't heal. I
Yeah.
always say you might have a scar, just like if you broke a bone or had a cut, something might stay there, but it doesn't mean you can't heal. And just
Beautifully
feel that.
said. Yes. And that was what drew me into my own healing and background, because from the Buddhist view, the same thing.
Mhm.
There is no view that people are broken and damaged.
I
The
love that.
view is, well, yes, we can all heal. There are ways in which we can do this. And part of the reason we can is all of us have these tools of kindness, of love, of wisdom, of compassion. They get very mixed up and distorted sometimes, but we can always access them.
Now, how do you help people learn that self-compassion? Because I know as a therapist, and even personally, sometimes, you'll push against the self compassion because you're worried you're going to have an inflated ego or that you're not thinking of others enough, especially if you're a mom these
Yeah.
days. You very much are given that message that if you take time for yourself, you're selfish, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, right? I think that that's such a misunderstanding. I mean, first of all, what is self compassion? Well, self compassion is the same as compassion. It is recognizing when you are struggling, when someone you love is struggling, being able to connect with that, and being able to offer whatever might help alleviate it. So it's kind of a turning towards difficulty. As a mom, you understand that. Your child stubs their toe and you kind of feel it and you go over there and you give them a hug. Um, and it's, taking that same orientation to yourself. And why we should do it? Well, first of all, for practical reasons, you touched on it, burnout.
Mm.
You cannot keep giving and giving. You're going to burn out, and then you won't be able to take care of anyone, least of all yourself. So that's one. And two, there's a sense of um, putting others in front of ourselves. And like you said, there's a sense, this very quiet, oh, you're selfish if you don't.
Mhm.
And yet we all deserve this sort of kindness and friendliness toward everyone. You don't have to do something special. I don't have to be a good mom to allow myself to take care of myself better. I don't have to, be perfect. But
So
there
you don't
is a
have to
sense.
earn it.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly it, Erin. I think, and I think that goes around a lot, that we feel like we have to earn it. And then there's resentment when we don't get it from other people. It gets very mixed up.
It's hard. It's hard to make that switch. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
I try and take my own advice, because, well, I try not to be too much of a hypocrite. I'm sure my children would disagree, but I try not to be with my clients at least. And it is hard to take that and switch it on yourself and ask yourself, how are you? Do you need a break? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, from my tradition, part of the way you do it is through practice. It's
Ah,
not
okay.
very magical. It's not very complicated. I don't have to like be a better person. What I have to do is start one, using some mindfulness. And what all that means is, oh, I start to notice. I notice that voice in my head. I noticed this morning, Erin, I have a cold and I
Mhm.
was busy doing things. And I had this voice in my head that was saying, Kim, for God's sake, it's just a cold. You can push through it. And I had to stop for a minute and say, okay, all right, that's an old idea. It's okay to be there. And I'm just going to breathe because you know what? I don't feel good. It's
Mm.
not the end of the world. And it's a moment of saying, well, I can be a little more patient with myself today. It's not going to hurt any.
Oh, I like that. So is the first step catching things like
I
that?
think so. The first,
Okay.
I would probably use the word recognize, but,
Okay.
catching, recognizing, here, noticing,
Mhm.
yeah, I think
Now,
so.
should we just notice or jump right in, or what's your
The
take
second
on it?
step, the first is noticing, right?
Mhm.
And you can, and the way many of us treat ourselves is you notice it and then you just add more. Like, oh, why do I do that, Kim? Right? Okay, so you want to avoid this. We have such a sense of, some Zen teachers say, stop the war with yourself.
Oh, I
And
like that.
that's
The war
right.
with yourself.
And that's what happens. Feeling come
So
up,
true.
or idea or something. I don't like it. I don't want to be like this today. Why am I so anxious? And then I start fighting with it, or insulting myself or ignoring or distracting. So once you notice it's happening, then the second step is just to pause, just to stop right here. For 10 minutes would be wonderful, but for 1 minute would be worth it.
Okay.
And in the way I suggest, Erin, is pause, put a hand on your heart, feel
Mhm.
your breath. Pause, put a hand on your heart, feel your breath. I teach what's called loving kindness meditation. Loving
What
kindness,
is that and how's it different?
it is a type of meditation, again from the Buddhist tradition. And this meditation uses words and phrases to rewire. That's what the brain scientists find when you practice loving kindness meditation. You're rewiring all these habits, because
Oh.
all of that, how we treat ourselves, and like you said, oh, am I selfish? I should do this and that. We learned that.
Mhm.
We weren't born with that. And I know you see this in your work, that, these, we learn these things and they become true.
You tell yourself enough times, you start to believe it, and then your
Yeah,
brain gets the message, oh, you want this to be true. So you make it happen.
exactly,
The
exactly.
power of that inner dialogue is just so incredible. I don't think people realize it.
I don't either. We think it's just, oh, that's who I am, or that's, oh, well, that's how it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
Uh, but once you start to pay attention, you realize, oh, it does not have to be like this. And there are different ways, different practices. You psychotherapy is really helpful, EMDR is really helpful, rewiring, and these practices can help too. And loving kindness practice seems so simple, but it's simply saying certain words of kindness and wisdom to yourself and others. So I might say, Erin, may you be safe and healthy and happy. And I might say, Kim, may I be safe and happy and healthy. And that's it. Just this sort of wish for those conditions to exist. And this is a real, it starts to create new grooves. So instead of going
Oh,
off into, Kim, you're being so lazy,
mhm.
it becomes, oh, Kim, you're struggling. And that
Ah,
shift is really, it's really meaningful.
so you become more compassionate with yourself when you're saying these things out loud and within the meditation to yourself.
Yes. And they're usually said silently.
Okay.
And they're usually, you practice saying them silently. I have to say, Erin, you don't always feel it in the practice, but
Mm-hmm.
you see it over time in your real, quote unquote, real life. And we would say off the cushion in my world. And I can't even tell you how many people have had incredible experiences with it. Just a softening,
I
not
say
huge
the
things.
same thing with EMDR and off the couch, as we would say
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Um, that you're not going to notice the shift right away because it is so slow and intentional, which is the way the brain and body learns and heals. Because if it's too fast, too quick, we don't keep it, we don't
Mm,
normalize it. It's too much. And so we go back to homeostasis and we don't keep what we've learned. So I think that is always a telltale sign of something being really good for you, is that it is slow and gradual, which is nothing anybody wants right now. We want it quick and fast. And I'm guilty of this too, but I just know when it comes to thoughts, behaviors, patterns, humans, it has to be slow and steady.
yeah. Yeah. It does.
How long do you find it like where is that mark where you start to see the benefit? Is it a couple weeks, months?
It depends on the person. It's interesting because I'm working with a woman right now who's in the midst of a difficult divorce, and she started practicing this. And within 2 weeks, she said to me, "Kim, I just feel so much less hard on myself."
Hmm.
Brain scientists, they've been doing so much research on meditation these last 20 years, and they find with loving kindness practice, if you practice it daily for a minimum of 12 minutes a day. In about 12 weeks, they see less self critical voice, more pro social behavior, and a more sense of steadiness, of a steady mindedness. So, I always recommend to people, just do it every day and see how it unfolds. I also think, Erin, that like you're saying, people, we all want it like right now, we're going to grab it. But the process is also the outcome in some of these healing paths. So a process of offering yourself kindness, of being patient with yourself, of putting effort into your own healing, all of that is an outcome of patience and love for yourself and putting effort into your healing.
That's an important way to like reframe that, that it is that daily practice. just like drinking water or getting enough
Yeah.
sleep. If you
Yeah.
really want to see a difference, it does have to be daily and it does have to go for a while. So it would make sense that this wouldn't be any different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
I'm one of those people, especially being ADHD, who find it difficult to meditate. Now, I have found that I can sit quietly and like listen for birds to get out of my head. So if I listen for birds, I can have a minute or two of not being in my thoughts. Other than that, I struggle. Do you have suggestions, tips, strategies? Because 12 minutes, I don't know if I could go that long.
Yeah. So, first of all, that's a perfect meditation. Using,
Oh,
what you're doing there is using sound as your object of attention. That's how
well,
technically
I
we
didn't
would put
even
it,
know that.
right?
I
So
just
you're
thought I was
sitting
being in my body, being
and
mindful. I
yeah,
didn't recognize it as true meditation. That's cool.
it absolutely is. And that's a good point. True meditation, quote unquote, um,
Mhm.
is your body and mind can't be separated. So
Mm,
using your senses, whether it's hearing or your breath or the feeling of your feet on the floor, you could notice light entering your eyes, but all of that, we're embodied beings. And so coming back to that, really, I mean, I use the word real. I feel real,
mhm.
when I meditate and I use my senses in this practical way, and um, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are saying, I can't meditate, or it's really hard for me. And yeah, it is. It's a new thing, and I have a teacher named Sharon Salzberg. She's a really well-known meditation teacher, and people say that to her, all the time. And
Mhm.
she says, well, if you wanted to learn to play the piano, you would know you were not going to sit down and be a virtuoso in one lesson.
True.
It would just, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some practice. And the same with meditation. And so, and a big part, the Tibetans have a word for meditation called gom. And what it means is familiarity. So, part of this process of meditating is becoming comfortable and familiar with what's here. We're so used to, getting up, doing busy, busy, that at
Mhm.
first it seems strange. Like you said, I'm going to sit here and listen to the birds, but then I got to get up, right? And so the practice is to start to, maybe add a minute a day, you know,
Okay.
and also there are different practices. You can use, that's a wonderful one, using sound. You can use breath. You can use loving kindness meditation, which is simply repeating these phrases, thinking of
I
your
think
daughter
I
and,
would be able to do that one, which I
mhm,
did not know was a meditation.
yeah.
I didn't realize that I could say things in my head and that would be a meditation.
Yes, it's very similar to, the yogic tradition have mantras. It's very similar to that idea. I mentioned if you're doing sound, well, that's your object of meditation. And if you're
Mhm.
doing loving kindness, well, your object are these words and this connection with someone. So you might imagine your daughter and saying to her, may you be safe and happy. May you
Oh,
be
I like
healthy.
that.
And each time your mind goes off to, oh, I have to make dinner, I got to do this, you close your eyes, you slowly come back, connect with your daughter. May you be safe and happy. May you be healthy. And just slowly repeating those. And then you give them to yourself. May I be safe and happy. May I be healthy. And so slowly, slowly, you're developing a real deep concentration as well as a connection to these qualities that you already have: compassion, kindness, wisdom, joy.
Oh, I love that. I I've never really delved deep into meditation. I know it's a practice that has been around forever. Um, I just didn't think it was for me because being someone who fidgets, I just assumed I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
And I only started doing the listening to birds because I was so much in the car rider line waiting for my kids at school, sitting there with time on my hand, that I was trying to figure out different ways to use that time for myself. And so I would try and get into my senses. Um, what are some ways to help women in particular, because I'm a woman, so that's just where my brain goes, and moms, because I'm a mom, that's where my brain goes, to take a few minutes?
Yeah.
Like, is there a way to integrate it, or I don't know, give people
Yeah.
permission almost?
That's what it is. And it's giving yourself permission. And
That's
I think
hard.
it's really hard. The first thing I say to people is you don't have to meditate at all. The first, very, very first step is to set aside 5 minutes each day where you are undisturbed and without devices. And that
Mm,
might seem crazy, but most of us, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, we are interacting, doing, or we're on the internet or watching a movie.
mhm,
So, the first step, anybody listening out there, go sit at your kitchen table for 5 minutes, set a timer, feel your breath, maybe repeat those phrases, or just be, but don't talk to anybody and don't grab your device. So that's the first step. And the best way to do that, and it's the best way to start any habit, is to pick a time and a place that's the same every day. So for
okay.
some of you, it's going to be the moment you wake up, you'll have 5 minutes and you'll do it. For others of you, it's at lunch. For some of you, it's right before bed. But pick that time and do it every day. It will really help strengthen this habit.
I like that. That's a new habit that maybe I'll try to work on for 2026. I always try and pick up one new good habit for the new year. I don't want to give things up. That whole idea just never sat well with me. I think it's because I was raised Catholic and every Lent we had to give things up. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to be forced to give up yet another thing for another time period in my life. But I like marking New Year's with being able to pick up something beneficial, just one thing. Because if I do too much, it doesn't stick.
Yep. Beautiful. That's beautiful. And you're pointing to the limitations of trying to make ourselves do things because we think we should, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I hate that word should.
right?
I
Right?
use
It
it
doesn't
too,
even
and I hate it
exist.
when I
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
And we want to come from a place of I am doing this because I it's a good way to care for myself and I want to care for myself and others more wisely. Something like that. Not, oh, I got so many problems and I need to fix this and I need to fix that. That's a terrible way to,
Mhm.
to relate to yourself. And in fact, in the Buddhist tradition, it's one of the ways that you can sort of develop a sense of discipline or resolve is through creating an intention. And in fact, every new year, I'm doing it January 12th this year via Zoom. For the last 10 years, we do a New Year's intention setting. And it's different in a subtle way because there's no goal. It's not,
Okay.
Kim's going to every day eat better. It's, I have an intention this year to eat more healthy,
Mhm.
or I have an intention this year to be more patient with myself. I have an intention this year to take better care of my body, whatever it might be, to interact with my family more. You have this overriding intention
Mhm.
and you allow that to guide the action.
Mhm. Now, how is an intention different than a goal?
Well, most of us think of it in terms of resolution. So there's like an outcome, right? This year,
Mhm.
I am going to run every single day. From an intention point
No,
of view, it would
that
be
sounds like punishment.
right. It sounds like punishment. It also, like you said, it's not lasting. It's really hard, to do some of these resolutions. Um, but with an intention, this year I'm going to pay more attention to my body. I'm going to, be more present for what my body needs. I'm going to develop a healthy sense of activity, whatever it might be, but a little bit less, little more open,
So more flexible, that
flexible.
psychological flexibility. So it's not so rigid and you're not saying, I failed right away.
Exactly. There's no way really to fail with your intention. You just keep trying. You just come back to it.
I like that. How do you help to hold yourself accountable or remind yourself for your intentions?
Yeah, one of the ways to do that is I mentioned loving kindness practice where you
Mhm.
say, may I be happy, may I be healthy. You can also do that with your intention, you
Oh,
know,
so you can use that as the phrase to meditate with?
correct. And it starts again, it's rewiring. And, these intentions, they're underneath everything we say and do. So it helps kind of reorient that.
I like that. That is a practice that I think would be not overwhelming as a busy mom who works full time and whatnot, and teenagers and taxi driving and all that stuff. To be able to just take a few minutes where I'm in my senses and repeating that positive intention to myself. That doesn't sound like a huge ask.
I agree. I think that you can do. I think everyone out there can do it. And part of doing it is um it feels good to do it. So
Hmm.
it's kind of an easier meditation in that way, to sit down and offer, kindness to your kids and to yourself and to your neighbors, maybe. Um, it usually it has a nice feeling in you. So, or a feeling of, oh, wow, wow, I didn't know I could do that. And so that it encourages us to do it more.
Like that. I'm going to give it a shot.
I'm glad. That's great.
Now, you're an author. Tell me about the books.
I have three books, and they
Oh,
all include, they're all about how we can use meditation, mindfulness, and loving kindness to improve our relationship with ourselves, with each other. The first one is called Steady, Calm, and Brave. It was written after the pandemic,
mm,
for ways in which we can care for ourselves and our family and our communities when things are really rough, and
mhm.
scary. And then after the loss of my mom died, and I wrote
I'm so sorry.
Navigating Grief and Loss with a lot of practices for that, not just the death of people you love, but job loss or divorce. Those are rough things. And I also have to say, Erin, I didn't have a great relationship with my mom. She was a lifelong alcoholic. It was really hard.
Oh, so it's a complicated grief.
It was, and I didn't know about that, Aaron. I kind of thought, well, if she was an old lady, and I thought, well, if my mom dies, I'll feel okay. We're not close. Oh, it was the
Actually,
opposite.
I have found that to be more traumatic for individuals because there's so much unsaid or not discussed or not feeling that you had the opportunity to be seen or heard or
Yeah. It's all
so.
unresolved, and all those yearnings to have that relationship, they're definitely over. It's really rough.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
think it's a very difficult grief that I don't think we talk about enough.
No, neither.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it is something we don't share enough. And we also don't share, there's a lot of things around the death of family members and things that they aren't so picture perfect.
Yeah.
We expect like the family's going to gather around, it's all going to be so great. Well, I don't know, if your brother's always been a nutty guy, he's going to get nuttier because that's really stressful. So
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things are in my book, and I also am glad to kind of share them because there's no shame in recognizing that this happens to all of us.
Yeah, I think that's important. What's the name of that book again?
It's called Navigating Grief and Loss.
Okay, I will have to put that on my to-do list, my to-do read list
Thank
because
you. You can get my books at any, they have them at Amazon. Any bookstore has
oh,
them.
perfect.
Yeah. And my last book that came out this year is called Happy Relationships. And it's for partners, family, and friends. Just ways in which we can connect. There are quite a few chapters in the family part for parents, as parents are
Mhm.
so hard on themselves, to talk about how you can use loving kindness practice to connect with you and, be a little kinder to yourself in these situations with your children.
It's difficult. Nobody has a class, a course, a conversation. I remember being in school and we had home ec and wood shop and I had all these classes in high schools I could take to learn to do things that I was interested in. So I learned how to make things and use this all in a screwdriver, and I appreciate that I can do that. I took home ec, didn't do the best, but, I learned that baking is never my strong suit, but I can cook, and the difference between that, right? But there's not really a class about what it means to be a parent, the constant responsibility, the never getting to turn off I wish we would talk more about how difficult it is. Um, because I think it really would have changed mine and my friends' perspectives when we were younger.
I think so
Wouldn't have been
too.
such a rush to, be a mom. Would have enjoyed a little bit more, not because I don't enjoy it, but because I didn't recognize how different it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we're not given tools.
No,
In
not
that
at
class, you would
all.
have some tools, how to regulate your
Yes.
own nervous system, how to
Yes.
notice when you're getting impatient, how to deal with conflict.
Yes, how to handle a baby that never stops crying and
Exactly.
screaming,
Yeah.
and the recognition that, actually sound is used in torture. So, like, it's okay that you're having such a strong
A
response.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good for you to be around that nonstop. So this is when we call and we get help from people. But we don't have those conversations or give those tools. But I love that you have the tool of the meditation for parents, because I just think it speaks to that need that we need to start addressing more and more.
Yeah. I think so too, Aaron.
Now, how long has that book been out for?
That came out in February. Happy
Oh,
relationships.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Now, if somebody wants to find you, follow you, how do they get a hold of you?
The easiest way, Aaron, I have a website called meditationwithheart.com.
Meditation with Heart.
Meditationwithheart.com. You can find out about me and my books. I teach classes but I primarily work with people one on one. And most people, we learn loving kindness. I teach them loving kindness practices and how to notice what's going on, all of these obstacles we have. And I also have a weekly newsletter. It's free and it usually has a guided audio meditation. So your
Oh,
listeners are
that's
very welcome to join
lovely.
and
Oh, I
are
will put a
practicing.
link in our notes below, because audio meditation, I don't know about others, but it always helps me because it stops my brain from wandering.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Awesome. Now, I always put people on the spot at the end because I do. I think it's the therapist in me. I'm always asking questions. Um, what would you tell your younger self, or advice to give your younger self, or a recommendation, if you
Yeah.
could tell your younger self something that would make life easier?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I would want my younger self to know is that there's nothing wrong with me. I mean,
Mm.
I just struggled with that so much. What's wrong with me? Why can't I be kinder, smarter, more successful, get the straight A's, prettier, taller, rich, all of the things.
Mhm.
And I spent a lot of time trying to fix myself or be angry at who I was, you know. So that is what I would like my younger self to know. There's nothing wrong with you. And everybody listening, nothing wrong with you.
That's powerful. I hope all my listeners really take that to heart. I know I'm going to reinforce that today. I always tell people when they come to me for therapy that there's nothing to fix. They're
Mm.
not broken. We just need to figure out what is it that we have to heal from so we stop repeating these negative patterns. But very much, there is nothing wrong with you.
It's really, I think it's great wisdom to share that, Erin. I'm glad you're doing that kind of work. And I hope that our
Oh,
message is heard by, others.
I hope your message definitely gets out there, especially to the parents. I think that's very important. Thank you for taking time today. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was such a pleasure meeting you, Erin. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. And thank you to my listeners for tuning in to Notes to My Nervous System. If this spoke to you, please leave a review. If it's a negative one, keep it to yourself. I don't need to read that. Share this with a friend who could use a little positivity. And as always, please be kind to your wiring.